Hello, welcome to the weekend edition of Journalist Hangout. I am Dakmo Aruwaje. Today on the Hangout, former Minister of Education, Ezekwesili, says President Buhari's economic policies are old-fashioned and they are impoverishing the poor. Niger Delta militants blew up Chevron's major oil platform in Delta State. Journalist Hangout starts now. In January this year, the federal government says it was planning to create a $25 billion fund with public and private financing to modernize infrastructure and avoid a recession. But this move was described as the height of foolishness by UK newspaper Financial Times. Some of us were appalled by this statement, but a former Minister of Education in Nigeria, Ezekwesili, seems to agree with the newspaper when she recently said President Muhammadu Buhari's economic policies are worsening the rate of poverty in the country. She described them as outdated and irrelevant in the 21st century democracy. But the Finance Minister, Kemi Adeosun, disagrees. She says although there is no quick fixes to Nigeria's economic challenges, the Buhari administration is handling the issues with a planned strategy. Adeosun said the federal government plans to pump 350 billion naira into the economy until the economy grows. But why will Ezekwesili make a light of President Buhari's economic policies? And today I have my colleagues and gentlemen in the house, Cyril Abaku. Good evening, Cyril.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you. And I have also Dick Bolayoko, General.
Yes, Dr. How are you? Yes.
Good evening, General. Yeah. Emeka Madunagu is also around.
I'm glad to be here. Good evening.
Thanks for hanging out with us. Okay, General, let me go to, we were meant to take the Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, talking about this same issue. Okay. But I think I'll be prompted if the need derives. Let me go to Cyril. Cyril, what do you think? Let's start with Ezekwesili. Did she make any, like she's echoing what the Financial Times is saying there, but is she making any sense?
Well, let me start by saying that in very many quarters today, perhaps riding on the crest of the overwhelming populist persuasion and support, that General Buhari enjoyed on his way to power, it is difficult for somebody to come out so boldly and make such very deterministic statements. But I think that in many ways, Ezekwesili, found her voice to state what was really obvious. Reason being that if you take, excuse me, if you take the blanket of those two words away, opaque and a cake, we look at indices. Okay, one index, job losses. The other index is the impoverishing of the poor, and the other one being inflation. They are all very stark realities today with us across board. It was the same picture we had between December 31, 1985 and August 27, 1983 and August 27, 1985, and we are back there again now. You see, and like she said, if the policy didn't work then, how can it work now? Let me give you one example. The challenges that are facing today, some people are going to tell you that it was because of what was carried over from the past government. But this is 1 year down the line. There is inflation in the land. One major causative agent of the inflation is the fact that when the government chose to monopolize the fuel supply process without consultation, and the NNPC, I think in the first quarter of this year alone, took up I think about 78% or so of the supply chain when they didn't have the facilities to. There was scarcity in the land. People are now selling fuel at 150, 200, 300, for. And the attendant consequence of buying fuel high is affecting transport, it's affecting commodity prices. There's inflation in the land.
The cost of living.
We have moved from single digit to double digit. That is one. I mean, if what was causing inflation was normal open market operations of demand and supply, we would have said, okay, let's look at our policies again. But now this is just, about the policy that just came up by government fiat. That's one. Number two, when we say that we are impoverishing the poor, the informal sector is always like the last thread standing in any economy. When the police IG came up and said that people should no longer buy, be allowed to buy fuel in
jerrycans.
In jerrycans, that was like the last straw on the camel's back. It was already bad enough that fuel was not available to be bought. Barbers, local furniture workers, people who run hairdressing salons. You know, generally the informal sector. As I speak to you today, when Moody's, Fitch, Standards and Poor's have all downgraded us, and we are falling from all the economic rankings that we ever enjoyed in the community of nations. The economy is not moving slowly. It has grounded.
You think so, General? What do you think? Because I think Cyril is echoing what Madam Ezekwesili is saying and what Financial Times has said initially. Do you want to agree with them?
There's a need for us to look at the aspect of the Financial Times. Because if the government says they want to inject some fund into the development of infrastructure, usually that is how money gets into the system. When you develop the infrastructure, road, hospital, health facilities, education, because in the process, you are going to engender a lot of economic activities. Let's take, for example, building of roads as an aspect of infrastructural development. You have a lot of, there will be contracts awarded. Some people will be employed in terms of skilled and unskilled labor. You are also going to have the market women, food vendors bringing food to the site. You will get more money to buy, and then there will be money in the circulation. So you begin to wonder why Financial Times find that one foolish. Then now let us bring it to Ezekwesili. By any standard, she is someone you should respect her voice. She has been a vice president of the World Bank or IMF.
Yes.
As we speak today, she's like an economic advisor to many presidents in Africa. So when she speaks on the economy, people should listen. But the question you ask yourself is, she said the president's economic policies, just like the policies of 1985, is archaic. Then the question you ask yourself is it fair to say that you know the economic direction of the current president? How do we mean? In 1985, 1983 December, when the then Major General Buhari took over, the situation in the country was akin to what he inherited in May 29, 2015. How do I mean? There was massive corruption. There was so many states were owing salaries. So many local governments were owing salary. And when you don't pay civil servants, how do they get money to inject into the system? It's when you pay civil servants, they will have money to go and buy from that woman selling card. They will not be buying on credit. They will have money to go and buy from that woman selling food. They will not be buying on credit. The same system, so there was no money in the circulation. If Ezekwesili is saying that Buhari's government created the problem of the economy, I think that is far from the truth.
No, but
if you listen, that's why I said if she said.
Okay.
Because if you look at the Nigerian issue from 2014, the last time money was injected into infrastructure was around May, June 2014. Go and check the record. Contractors were stopped, they stopped being contractors. And it is through infrastructure development that you can inject money into the system. The government cannot just be throwing money around. It is through contracts. But between May and June 2014, all these things stopped. Politics took over. So the economy itself was already on its knees by this time people took over. I remember that in November, last 2014, the CBN came up and said, as at that time, that they had taken $3 billion from the foreign reserves to show up the value of the Naira. But they said, unfortunately, they could not succeed because the Naira then continued to fall. So by December 2015, the CBN said for the first time they were going to officially devalue the Naira. And this one did not stop. By February, before we went to the election, CBN came out and said they were going to devalue the Naira. So as in 3 months, 2014 to 2015, CBN had officially devalued the Naira. So there was a free fall of the Naira. And unfortunately for us, by the time the current president took over, the price of crude oil could happen to be the only thing that gives us what do you call it? Like the dollar has come to around $28. So there was nothing the government could do to quickly bring up the economy again. Now the question is, why did Ezekwesili say that? What is the economic policy of the government? There are only two issues you can think of. One is the issue of the value of the naira. The man, just like he did in 1933, said, I am not going to officially devalue the naira. Some of us believe that the write-off from the Financial Times is coming from that perspective, because they would have loved the man to devalue the naira, and the man gave reasons why he would not devalue. Nigeria is not producing. Nigeria is only importing. Why do we devalue? If we are producing and we are exporting, we can devalue, because it's going to be to our own advantage. Then secondly, what is the other aspect you can look at is when you look at the current budget, which is the first budget of this government. That is where you can also have a glimpse of the economic drive of this government. Then what is the economic drive? They are going to be less dependent on crude as our major foreign exchange earner, or to propel the economy. That is why if you look at their economy, I think they said they are expecting below 1 trillion naira to raise from crude oil to finance the economy. They are looking at a lot of things. Yes, they said they are going to expect about 2 trillion, but some of us believe that they are going to generate some money from the covered routes, from taxes. If you look at what is happening now, I remember that sometimes in September 2014 or 2015, no, sorry, 2013 or 2014, the FIRS came up and said that as at that September, that they had generated, internally generated IGR, they had generated about 3 trillion naira. That was September 2013. But at the end of the day, how much of that goes into funding the budget? Rather, we were depending on crude and stuff like that. So I think it would be very, very unfair on the part of Ezekwesili to say, yeah, the times are hard. Okay. Definitely. But the question is it the policy of the government that is causing that? I think the answer is
Emeka, what do you think?
Yeah, he has said a lot of things. But I want to add that Ezekwesili, I read what she said, and I think she was just being grossly unfair to this government. Yes, she's an expert in financial issues, but again, you could see that what she was actually hammering on, was the fact that because, even though she didn't say it, but the underlying message was because President Buhari refused to devalue the naira, so he had encouraged massive corruption. She used that word, massive corruption and abuse of power, but she couldn't substantiate what she meant by massive corruption and abuse of power. Because is it a government that has started implementing the TSA and has been able to get a chunk of money, large amount of money kept aside that you say is encouraging massive corruption? Is it a government that has talked about, developing, that has said it has produced ministerial debit cards so that whatever expenditure is made by ministries will be tracked? Is it a government that has been working on getting to know how many civil servants there are in the federal service? So we're looking at transparency, talking about blocking leakages, talking about the fact that last year, 90 billion naira was spent on trips alone. And then this government has been trying to cut distance. Yes, she may have a point in the sense that maybe President Buhari didn't act fast enough in putting together a team. He didn't act fast enough in getting people who could have helped him really move faster. Yes, but of course, he has acknowledged it. That yes, the pace of his government may have been slow, but the government, like he said today, that order is better than speed. Of course, it's better to proceed in an orderly form than for you just to keep running. And then again, at the time the oil price was $110, President Jonathan was borrowing to pay salaries. So is it when the oil price went down so low to $40 to $38 that you'd expect that there'll be boom time? But don't forget, for the first time, the National Assembly is facing the reality in the budget benchmark. It has been at $38. Previously, under Obasanjo's administration, under Yar'Adua, under Jonathan, there were issues about the projection, the benchmark. Then people warned that the benchmark was unrealistic. But now this government has brought it down to $38, a realistic benchmark. And don't forget the fact that this government also inherited a lot of liabilities. There were liabilities owed to oil marketers. There were liabilities owed to states. States submitted bills for road construction, which have not been paid. But don't forget, the finance minister said yesterday that the states will be paid, and then again, the federal government will take over its responsibilities.
Okay, since you mentioned the finance minister, well, I think it's better we listen to her because she made a statement concerning what we're discussing now. Kemi Adeosun.
2005, we were given debt forgiveness, and that was a very exciting time for Nigerians, and we were all very excited. What's happened in that last 10 years is actually, on average, our compound GDP has been negative. We've been growing in the wrong direction. At the same time, we've increased our debt levels. We've actually gone back up. We now owe as much as we owed before debt forgiveness. So what this administration is trying to do is move the economy in a different direction. In order to do that, we have to address certain things. One, we have been borrowing to pay salaries for years. That has to stop. We spend 165 billion every month on salaries. When I came in, there was no checking. Now we've put that in place. On a monthly basis, there's a unit, they do nothing else than checking salaries, checking who's getting paid, checking everything, and they're catching people out, and we're going to continue, and people will be prosecuted. So we're keeping down our recurrent expenditure so that we have enough money for capital investment. Nigeria needs to look at this oil price that went from 110, we have nothing to show for it. Name one major project the federal government has done in the last 5 years. Nothing. So when we make people accountable for every naira, this economy can change. But I want to assure you that if we can just endure these difficult times, in a year's time it's a different economy. Right now, despite all our challenges, people are coming into the Ministry of Finance. They want to do deals. They want to open factories. Someone came the other day, I want to open an airline. They see the opportunities in Nigeria. I want Nigerians now to look in. What is in your village? What is in your hometown? What can be done? Because this is the opportunity to really reposition and grow this economy. And if you look at all the fundamentals, it's all there, it's all positive. Even those who have negative things to say about us, so well, in the short term, we think you're going to have chance, they all agree that the outlook for Nigeria in the long term, if we continue with this disciplined way of working, is positive.
The Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun. And let me go to Syria.
No, I just wanted to add some, just briefly. So, you know, of course, people have been talking of the economic direction of the government. You know, definitely people had expected that the medium-term economic framework will be out sometime last year. But right now, I understand the Federal Ministry of Budget and Planning is preparing, is almost through with it. And so when it comes out, you're going to see projections for 2016 to 2020 with a lot of things explained, a lot of things drawn out. So I think we should be optimistic.
We're in the right direction.
Yes, in the right direction.
Sir, you heard I said patience, that's what we need, because you said in the last 5 years, can we mention when even oil was doing fine, as at $100, above $100 per barrel? What have we seen? What achievement can we mention or can we point towards? What do you think?
Well, I think in addition to that, she mentioned quite a number of things. Before I come to your question, let's not forget this point. The minister pointed out that the government had been paying, is it $165 billion or so?
Billion naira.
Sorry, naira for
borrowing.
Yeah,
borrowing.
Yeah, but I don't know if that is the exact amount that is being paid to the workers, or that's what was being borrowed to complement whatever they have to pay workers. Because I think sometime in January or so, the Secretary of the Government of the Federation mentioned about 600 billion naira or so. So I don't know where this
so the thing is that we are borrowing
but the point to be made is this, you know, borrowing to pay, you are borrowing to finance your recurrent expenditure. It's not a wise thing to do, you know.
But people need to be paid.
It's done all over the world.
They need to be paid. So why will you tell the man that is earning 18,000 that the minister is not wise in what she did?
No.
Borrowing, okay.
What I'm saying is, normally, when you borrow to consume, you are not, I mean, it's basic economics. If you borrow, you're supposed to invest to be able to, and I think even during the campaigns, you know, the APC made it clear that, look, this culture of borrowing to finance recurrent, whether you're paying salaries or you're sponsoring travels, as far as you're borrowing to fund recurrent, you are not. It's not very good financial intelligence. But let's even come in from that. We are borrowing to pay. Now, what we expect to see is to say, look, like Emeka said, the MTF, should have been out long enough and then properly communicated across board. Nigerians need to see. It's not enough that when we are hungry and somebody says, look, food is going to be ready. All of us, but we need to see what exactly is being made ready for us, because by the principle of public accountability, Nigerians have a right to know what government is doing in trust on their behalf. Government is simply a creation of what we call the social contract. We are all the government, but some people have been put there to work on behalf of the people. If what they are seeing, if what they are doing is not seen, is not visible to us, it is difficult to get the populist buy-in. So, well, whatever the odds are, Nigerians are the ones who, at the end of the day, are going to, be at the receiving end. Whether it's for
so
good
they should be
or
kept
it's not.
updated with whatever is happening.
Nigerians kept updated and then consulted as well. The other time when the town meeting was held. Yeah, but I mean, how many of us? How many of the market women from 12? How many of those whom policies are actually geared towards were there for their voices to be
but the minister
to be heard?
I remember Lai Mohammed and the minister Kemi Adeosun and who else again? They were in Lagos over the weekend.
The communication process is still a talking to, not a talking with. You need the buy-in. You need to be seen to be working. It is not enough for us to be paying taxes. I mean, look at the power sector. You say you're going to increase the tariffs. The tariffs. When another government agency is saying that, look, even the tariff increase, you people that are supposed to be supplying the prepaid meters are underperforming. Meanwhile, contracts have been awarded, so the process must be seen to be clear. When people say that some things are not transparent, they have a point. Whether government means well or not, the fact that we are not seeing what is being done, what is supposedly being done, when you say, for instance, that there are Fulani herdsmen attacking and killing villages, and the minister comes and says that they are working secretly, Nigerians don't want any secret action against violent.
But I agree Nigerians should endure, Nigerians should wait. Do you agree with that?
They have to be given sufficient reason why their weight is what they wait.
Let me get to you, General. What you're saying is like the government is not reaching enough to the reasoning of the people. People should know what is happening. Though she said that the minister said we should endure, we need to wait a while, we should tarry. But how many people will understand that English?
At times I pity the people in government. Honestly. Because you get to some part of Nigeria, they will say, these people are just talking, they're not doing anything. You get to another section, they will say, these people are not talking to us. Then you begin to wonder, how do we now police Nigerians? But the question is, we owe it a responsibility as a duty to the government and to Nigerian people, opportunities like this, to explain a lot of things to Nigerians. You get into the Nigerian public space, you see a lot of ignorance and misgiving, misinformation, when even people are supposed to know, even when they talk. Then you begin to wonder. But the question is, where we are today, are we supposed to be here within the context of where we are coming from?
Can you reserve your thought, please? Because I need to take Abdullah, calling from Niger Delta. Good evening, Abdullah. Abdullah, are you there? Good evening.
Yes, how are you? Where is my friend? How are you?
Yeah, Judy is somewhere around. Good evening. Ayo is busy somewhere around too. Your contribution, please. I'm here to serve you.
I'm very happy with what you people are doing.
Okay.
Yes. What I'm trying to say is to urge for peace and patience for Mr. President. Because the damage over in a day, this man has to be given a chance. And what I'm trying to passionately call for is to urge us to go in for prayer for this man.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Abdullah. Well said. Patience, that's what he's clamoring.
Yes, because I remember that in February 2015, when there was the problem of this budget stuff between the executive led by the former President Jonathan and the then legislature, the then Minister for Finance kept telling Nigerians, that they should tighten their belt. That was February 2015, even when they were selling at $70-something per barrel. He said that that year was going to be very tough for Nigerians because he was looking at where we were coming from. When we were selling at 110, we were selling at 120. And some people kept stealing this money. You see, unfortunately for this government, that's why I sympathize with the president when he went to one of these countries and said, why me? It is usually situations like this when he comes in. I think it was Cyril that mentioned 1983.
So it's like deja vu now.
Yes, and again, when he came in, he met the same problem, bringing all resources, debts everywhere here and there.
But is he tackling the problem well? Because
no, that's why I said you have to look at where. That's why.
Because a command and control. That's the way he said it.
When you do the same thing, when you do the same thing, expecting a different result, it will not come. Let me tell you something. The approach, you see. Good policy driven by incompetence will give you bad results. Bad policy driven by competence will give you even worse results. What the job losses that happened in the past 6 or so months didn't come because of the past government. The fuel crisis that we're having now, where fuel is being sold for $40 or under in the global market, and we are now paying higher than we are paying when it was, the table has now turned. Didn't happen because of the previous government. There is a sense in which when you are on the stage, you have to take responsibility.
But they could say it's a ripple effect.
Some people have
a ripple effect. What has been happening?
The people that have left the stock market, the investors that have left, it's not because any ripple effect. Therefore, there is a sense in which your actions, and at least we have considered one point that the takeoff was slow. Okay, not occasioned by any other factor, but well, I don't work in commerce, so I cannot know. But the takeoff was slow, and then the policy. Look, you look at the budget issue, for instance. Today, the narrative is that the National Assembly padded the budget, but it's a lie.
Okay.
Well,
that's your opinion.
Sorry, that I was on you.
That's your opinion. That's your opinion. You can't speak.
It is not the entire story.
No, you can't speak for the National Assembly.
The full story, as we know, was that when the budget that the president presented was taken to the National Assembly, his ministers went on the floor of the National Assembly and ran away, saying that this budget has been padded.
No, that's an allegation.
No, it is.
Let's not waste time on that.
Let me let you finish.
It's a system problem.
Let's not waste time on that.
Let me let you finish.
Because I came across a former senator, a former member of the Senate, who told us, he even blamed journalists that we are ignorant, we are illiterate. That Nigerian journalists were behaving as if this is the first time National Assembly will pass the budget. That is their stock in trade. So if Cyril is now saying they didn't, that's another story. But the point is, yes.
Before you make your point, I need to interrupt you again. Ali is calling from Benue State. Good evening, Ali.
No, you wait.
Good evening.
Yeah, evening.
Yes. Your contribution this evening, please.
Hello?
Ali, we're waiting for you. You're calling from Benue.
Yes.
Good evening. Your contribution, please.
To appreciate the effort of the TVC.
Thank you.
For this program. I really appreciate the effort of this program. But the issue of the fact is that at least we have to be patient with the present government because of the economic situation on ground. We have to be patient. We have to give it time. We need time. We don't need to rush because the economy has crumbled down already. So it will take us time to fix it in order. So we need patience.
Okay. Thank you so much. At least begging for patience again. That's the second
many Nigerians seem to appreciate the enormity of the problem, especially when this government came into being on May 29. Yes, like Emeka said, against the expectation of many Nigerians, the president seemed to take off. He didn't hit the ground running. But like a friend told us that it will only hit the ground running if you are falling on a solid ground. But when you are falling on a murky ground or muddy, you have to even struggle to stabilize. The situation was so bad when this man took over. Unfortunately for him, he was looking for saints. Maybe if he had constituted a team that will help him, maybe he would have launched himself into tackling this problem and before allowing it to fester. But the question is, where do we go from here?
And how much is it?
350 billion within the next 3 quarters.
Is that not
no, if you multiply that by 3, that will be about 1.something trillion naira within 9 months. I think it's still okay.
It's still okay.
But there must be an engendering of economic activities, especially in the infrastructure area.
Your last statement.
Yeah, what I want to say is that much as we might blame the government, Nigerians must also see themselves as a part of the process of growing this economy. What am I talking about? Okay, fine. In the market, you see price of tomatoes and pepper has gone. You know, they've gone up.
And
now it's easy.
It's
easy to blame the government. But I'll tell you what. Now we don't see ourselves as part of the food chain, that we can contribute to the food chain, to the to agriculture. Now you find that oil. What percentage of the GDP is it? And the minister said 13%. Now you have 87% remaining, covering other sectors. Now, what are we doing to expand those other sectors? Now, how are we going to move our business class, the entrepreneurial class, away from import dependence, away from rent seeking, to actually investing in the economy? You see, when you talk about the stock exchange, you talk about speculative investors, people who just come, trade in equities, fine. But when the thing, since it has gone down, now what about the productive sector of the economy? What about agriculture? The Minister of Agriculture, Adogbe, has said that there is an ambitious target to make agriculture the mainstay of the economy. And we've seen we saw what agriculture did for this country in the First Republic. Now, if we say we are going that way again, it's not a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Okay, your last take on this.
I like what Imuka said, but it's not the first time that we're going to be hearing these things. For them to become reality, okay, government needs to be more consultative, more outgoing and outreach.
He's going to consult now, the MTF.
The president, if you translate what Ezekwesili said, the command and control thing, and then some feelers that you get from colleagues and all that, it's as if somebody is there micromanaging. We need to give room to the experts that have come into government to think and to work. Until we do that, it's going to be the same circle that we're doing.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And when we come back, a militant truly regrouping in the Niger Delta gets our reaction shortly. We'll be back soon. It seems militants have regrouped in the Niger Delta. On Thursday, January the 14th this year,
oil and gas pipelines belonging to the Nigerian gas company was bombed by unknown vandals. In February, a Shell oil pipeline was bombed, shutting down the Forcados export terminal. As this action plunged Nigeria into darkness as power plants were denied of gas supply. On Wednesday this week, Chevron's valve platform in Delta State was bombed by militants. And as we wonder who was behind the attack, a militant group called the Niger Delta Avengers claimed responsibility on its website, saying it was also behind the bombing of Forcados export terminal in February, and now the group has threatened to take its attack beyond the creeks to Lagos State and Abuja. They say more oil installations will be attacked until President Buhari meets their demand. Who are the Niger Delta Avengers? Let me go to you. Normally, we shouldn't be giving these people a lot of publicity, but we need to find out who are they, because we thought we've done a whole lot in Niger Delta area. So we should, I think we should be together about promoting this country. So who are these ones again now?
They said they have vowed to protect the interests of the people of Niger Delta. That's one aspect which I was able to extract from everything those guys stated. But if Nigerians are surprised that we are here, we are today, I think we are fooling ourselves. Some of us knew, and that was what happened when Niger Delta introduced the amnesty program.
Yes.
Many of us shouted there, not because we didn't like the people of Niger Delta, but some of us believed that there should have been a better way of appeasing the people of Niger Delta instead of these people that Amechi then, I think it was the governor then, I think he called them hoodlums, because these guys were not fighting for the interests of Niger Delta.
They were fighting for the pockets.
And if you look at what happened between, especially that became more pronounced between when the immediate president got there and when he left office, many of these prominent leaders of these so-called Niger Delta militants, we have so many of them, Asari Tokubo, Tompolo, became stupendously rich, while their communities continue to wallow in abject poverty and lack of infrastructural development, because that was supposed to be the main target aim of the agitation.
Yes.
Unfortunately, many of them became so powerful that they could even overrun some towns and places like that. The moment, we were discussing this thing immediately after that thing. We were on a program on a sister television station, and after the program, somebody told me that during his interaction with some of these guys, that some of them even referred him to the Bible. That somebody said, after all, Jesus Christ said, after the John the Baptist, the kingdom of God becomes like suffereth violence, only the violent take it by force. Yet we might think that these people were just joking, but they have something to fall back on. Let us go historical. When the OPC, I am Yoruba, when the OPC were terrorizing the other Nigerians, especially in the southwest, what happened? Some state governments, especially after the dispensation, the current dispensation took over in 1999, some of the state governments put some of the leaders of OPC on their payroll.
Yes.
They were paying them. Today, if you see the convoy of OPC leader, Gani Adams, you would think that a governor is approaching. And interestingly, what happened? This thing started during the time of Abacha. Coincidentally, the Yorubas got compensated with the presidency of the country. And interestingly, when the Niger Delta guys started their own, they said they were defending, they were fighting for infrastructural development. Coincidentally, as a result of that violence, some of a son of Niger Delta became the president. History continued to move on. Boko Haram came. When some Nathaniel said, we are going to make the government of Jonathan ungovernable. Circumstantially or coincidentally, after their struggle, Nathaniel became the president.
So you're thinking like, the Niger Delta man will become the president again?
No. It's like we have now elevated violence to the level that when you want to get something, visit violence on the Nigerian state, they will negotiate with you. After that, they will compensate you with whatever you want. So the question is, it now depends on the approach the government want to adopt. I mean, the current government. The government. Because anywhere you allow violence to dictate what people get, it will continue like that.
I'm talking about the approach that the government is, because we've heard the president said the ones that militants now are going to be treated like terrorists, like the ones suffering in Sambisa Forest now. Do you think the government is going to do that really?
Yeah, in saying that, Nigerians, a lot of people reacted to what President Buhari said. They didn't understand what he was talking about. The international dimension of this problem. You see, Boko Haram started as a local problem, as a local issue in Maiduguri, but now assume the international dimension affecting Nigeria, Chad, Benin, Nigeria, Chad, Cameroon, Niger. Now, look at this issue of militancy. It started as a localized problem. Today, I want to tell you, that militancy is also tied with piracy and with oil theft.
Very true.
Now afflicting the entire Gulf of Guinea, which comprises 10 nations, even down to, Angola and Congo joined sometime last year. So you see, it's afflicting all of them. And don't forget, this Abite platform that was attacked, on Wednesday, was attacked in 2009, June 2009 by MEND. The same conditions, these chaps brought up, were the same conditions that MEND in June 2009 brought up, the same conditions. You can see the same thing. And they also threatened to destroy the entire oil infrastructure in Niger Delta and then move offshore. They said Niger Deltans outside Niger Delta should come back. That some terrible things were going to happen. But let me now tell you, President Buhari was talking about the international dimension. Now, these guys operate as pirates. These same people vandalize platforms. The same people engage in oil theft.
They even degrade the environment more.
Yes, no, and the other
because
issue,
when you blow the pipelines, you have to spill oil.
The other issue is that, look at the time, the Indian Ocean was the focus around Somalia. But now you see pirate attacks have gone down.
Yes.
The focus is now on the Gulf of Guinea. And so you see President Buhari, you saw the Cameroonian president was here some days ago. Of course, President Buhari was in Equatorial Guinea. President Buhari has met with presidents from Benin and some of these other countries. Now, don't forget the UN Secretary General, Ban Ki-moon, sometime last year, he convened a regional summit on this Gulf of Guinea problem and said what is needed is a maritime framework and some technical assistance to deal with this issue holistically. But I'll tell you one problem. You see, international navies patrolling on the high seas cannot deal with these chaps because, they are within, they say, they are within territorial waters. They attack platforms, they attack oil installations, and so they don't come out basically to the deep seas where international navies
so they just go local.
Yes, so now you see international navies cannot actually pursue them into territorial waters. But if the Gulf of Guinea Commission, if the countries of the Gulf, the 10 nations of the Gulf of Guinea can come together and form a multinational joint task force, just like Nigeria, Cameroon, Niger, Chad formed against Boko Haram, definitely you see this problem will be nipped in the bud very, very quickly. That's what President Buhari was trying to talk about. And I think maybe they made some progress in forming this multinational joint task force.
Okay. Cyril, you're from that hood, you're from the area. And what's the problem? Because, I just need to get you're from the area, right?
Man, I live in the hood.
Yeah, you don't live in that hood, but you're from the area, man. So let's talk about what is happening. Because the same tune MEND was singing then, eventually the people in MEND, maybe I want to choose my words, they empower the leadership, they empower themselves at the end of it. Even the Niger Delta Volunteer Force, we cannot even hear anything again. Of recent, you heard Tompolo saying, I'm not a part of this, or you should just exempt me from all this. And the Avengers, or what do they call them? And they are saying now that, okay, Mr. Tompolo, this is not even your fight, this is our fight. And we are going to take it to everywhere. So what's the problem? Are they fighting for their pockets again? Because that seems to be the only thing now. Whenever they get something, they just keep quiet.
Well, I cannot claim to have.
I'm not calling you a militant.
That's your area.
It's your hood.
To be very honest with you, that news comes to me as very unfortunate.
Yeah, very, very.
Very, very unfortunate. But like Emeka said, the demand that these people are making tends to me that the focus is not even about oil revenue or about the struggle of the
degradation of a.
No, that's not what they're looking at.
And that's what they should be looking at.
And that used to be the traditional demand.
Yes.
That we are getting little for giving so much.
Yes.
But what we are seeing now is a different tone. They are saying that the president should convoke a meeting of all the nationalities. Let them decide whether they want to continue as one country
or not.
That's a different ball game. And if you look at that this issue in that context, it opens an entirely new and different vista.
No, but they said in 2009, MEND said something in 2009.
You hold on. Crying for the region to succeed is different from saying that Nigeria should come together and agree whether they want to continue or not is another dimension. And I worry very well.
Okay.
If I bear my chest for you and you can see it into my heart, you will see that I want to live and die as a Nigerian. Even if this country goes worse than what it is today, I want to continue to keep my identity as a Nigerian. That's me, okay? So whatever their motivations or their policies are, and whatever those communities that are, providing their soil as canon fodder for them to gain access to do what they are doing, it is wrong. It's unfortunate. Sometimes you will think that just like Dipo pointed out, the Nigerian state seems to have come to the point where she listens to one language, which is the language of force. I'm just hoping and praying that we will be able to move beyond that threshold and come to a point where Nigerians can sit together to say, look, we need to chart a new course going forward.
Or do you
let's sit together.
Or do you think these ones are just distractions? And it depends on how the government, that's the federal government, is going to deal with them. That will decide maybe they are going to grow.
Okay. If you look at Boko Haram, it was a regional issue.
Yes.
Initially, at least. If you look at the Fulani herdsmen crisis, that has been rocking parts of the southeast. In fact, some days ago or some weeks ago, I heard that some Ijaw youths had issued a warning that these people that are, that this number should not make the mistake of entering that territory. And you look
Avengers.
at, yes, no, well, just
what, general.
General. And to hear that they are now saying, look, we're even tired of how this whole thing is going on. It is either a call for a conference, let's agree. There's another tone. There's an undertone. And I think that it is something that we need to address. I as a Nigerian, I don't need these Avengers to start blowing up pipelines before I know that as a country, we need to be a better country, a more united country, where the nations within the nation can have their own voices and we cannot live together in peace and tranquility.
Good evening, Wale. You're calling from Lagos.
Before I know that as a country, we need to be a better country, a more united country, where the nations within the nation.
Wale, there's a delay. You just need to keep on talking.
Good evening, Aruajoye. And good evening, the panelists.
Yes. Good evening,
I think the problem of Nigeria is just our insincerity to say the truth, as always. Be real. You don't need to invade that question Aruajoye asked you. He asked, what was the achievement of Jonathan in 5 years? You invaded it, you didn't answer him. That is what we want to know. And the economic recession that happened some time ago in the U.S., it's almost part of the world and the Western world. When Bush, wasted almost 8 years of the American resources, it took Obama 4 years. The entire 4 years of Obama first time was spent rebuilding it. It's never easy. Wasting 60 years of Nigeria from our leaders, and you think it will take Buhari 1 year to rebuild or to correct? It's not easy. Let us be fair with ourselves. Now, the benchmark of the crude oil is less than $40 per barrel, and you are asking this very man to put everything in shape overnight. No, it's not happening. And for the issue of a Niger Delta, I think they are coward. I'm very sure. Just with little time, just wait. Their mouth will be shut. And God bless Nigeria.
Okay, hopefully, Wale. Thank you very much.
Let me just add this
briefly, because I need to go to
there was an SSS report sometime, and I read this in the Guardian. Okay, so I can cite an authority as to how some of these, how the Nigerian regions behave whenever somebody from another side comes to power. Sharia came in 2000. That report actually said that it was meant to destabilize and shame the Obasanjo regime. When Sultana came, Jonathan. Okay, well, when Yar'Adua came, the hostage taking and whatever, he inherited it, okay, but it became so unbearable that he had to grant amnesty. When Jonathan came, we had Boko Haram. Now Buhari is there, and we have it. So this is going to. That's why I'm saying that. Look, we need to be a united nation. Yes, we need to be, but how do we go about it?
But
sometimes I ask, why don't we even begin from there?
Okay, I was thinking really, what does it? As the commander of the armed forces, do you think anybody or someone or a group somewhere will just wake up one day and start blowing? Do you know how much we're going to be losing? They said we're going to be losing 130,000 barrels daily. That's like Nigeria will be losing $5.3 million every day just because of shenanigans.
I said something in my opening remarks as far as this issue is concerned. I said it depends on how Buhari is going to approach the issue.
Yes.
Initially, I told you the way Yaradua, later Yaradua approached it, which some of us said that that was not proper. I am sure, based on General Buhari's antecedent, he's not going to go towards the amnesty direction. But the point is, we'll be deceiving ourselves if we think these guys just woke up one day and they are doing this thing on their own. There are some elements in Nigeria that wants to keep the government busy in so many fronts, so that there will be reasons for them to say, after all, we told you.
To the distractions.
It's simple distraction. That is just it. But the question you ask yourself is, Emeka gave us some international dimension. Some few years back, when the issue of piracy became so pronounced in the waters around Nigeria, we became a serious concern. Vessels coming to Nigeria, they even had to charge us additional bill in terms of what they call the risk involved in bringing vessels into Nigeria.
It's insurance.
Instead of the government then to arm the Nigerian Navy, they came up with a policy which they said they were going to arm Tompolo.
Yes.
To build platform for NIMASA.
Yes.
That is the agency charged with the responsibility of maintaining security and administration of Nigerian waters.
Is it Global Vessel?
Global West.
Global West.
Yeah.
And it was billions of naira.
That was a misnomer.
It was billions, yeah?
And unfortunately, this is a guy who was doing this thing before, like Obasanjo just said, it's like you ask a thief to go and guide over your property. So the question is, I can only advise the leaders in that community to even, Yoruba will say, call for Omo Basho, call these guys to order, let them see reasoning. Exactly. Because by the time the government goes after them, it's going to be the issue of rule of law and human rights. And the international community itself is concerned about the rate of piracy, kidnapping in the waters around Nigeria. That is why, if you are in the maritime industry, vessels coming to Nigeria, it's a big risk. They don't even want to come.
It's a bit.
But yes, God bless you. But if they agree to come, they are going to charge us extra money because of the risk involved. And with what is happening now, I believe that some people, politicians, are behind these boys. Thank God Tompolo has said, count me out. I don't want to be involved. But I think it is appropriate for the leaders in that community to call these guys. Because when the military comes now, unfortunately, the innocent will partake in what is going to happen.
I have Ayo from Ghana. Good evening, Ayo.
Just like what happened in the OD the other time.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Your contribution, please.
Yeah, I just want to say, good evening. I just want to talk to Cyril. Cyril needs to be very careful when talking, when analyzing issues. A lot of us, we listen to this program, and we need to take away tribe from anything that has to do with Nigeria. So and because of him, most times I don't watch this program.
Why did he say exactly what do you mean?
On which issue?
On which issue particularly?
He's so biased when it comes to issues. Let's face let's face this thing.
Okay.
This guy, the president, is trying very much.
Okay.
You're talking about the economy, the issue of economy, right?
Okay. Cyril is entitled to
his own opinion. Cyril is entitled to his own opinion. It brings color to this discussion. Thank you very much. It's noted. But don't let us go away from that. So don't worry. I've spoken for you now. Okay, let me go to you now. What do you think? Because generally, now when Forcados was blown, we had issues with light. And now, 40 nautical miles from Escravos, which is the terminal, what are we going to have now? Everybody's going to be in darkness. So what kind of fight are the Avengers, or what do they call them?
No, I don't want us to be distracted. I don't want us to be distracted by their latest agenda.
But all these things are going to be affecting the lives of people.
Like I told you, it was the same thing men brought up in June 2009. Now, let me tell you something.
As your final take, please.
Yeah, if you remember when the gang that kidnapped those school children in Ikorodu, when their leader was captured, he said they were the same people who attacked banks in Akbara, attacked banks in Festac, and they had been vandalizing pipelines, moving all over. I understand that these guys, sometimes when they come to do things in Nigeria, they move to Sao Tome. Yes. They move to Ghana. They hide in different places. So what is needed is for the international community, the United Nations, and the nations of the Gulf of Guinea, the 10 nations of the Gulf of Guinea, to come together, form this multinational joint, task force, and move into the territorial waters and nip this thing in the bud. It has nothing to do with the Sovereign National Conference or Niger Delta people. If you go attacking Niger Delta communities, these guys are not there. These guys live they even live outside Nigeria. They were living in Greece. I believe they live in hotels. They are no longer there. Yeah. Levels don't change finally. Cyril, your last take.
my take would be that I think it's still early days. Okay. Government should sit back on the issue of the economy. Let's have more robust engagement and communication. We need to know what government, if anything is being done, let's know what is being done, so that citizens can also play their role. And for the issue of the bombing, it stands condemned. Violence is not the means by which we want to express whatever grievance we have. I have never endorsed violence as a means of protesting, of championing any cause. Nigeria, at the end of the day, will be ours to live in and to live for generations to come. So why do we need to destroy it?
General, I think Nigerians need to be patriotic at this point. If Nigerians take the time to look into the books of this country, Nigeria is passing through a very serious situation. The government needs less distraction now. I think what everybody needs to do is to do what is necessary to push this country forward.
And the government needs less distraction. We have the budget of change now already. So by Monday, I know the viewers are itching to know what we will be discussing on Monday. We'll leave the budget for Monday. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Emeka, our General, and Cyril. Thanks a lot. And for those that have called, thank you very much.
And that's all on Journalists Hangout today. Join us for more interesting episodes on the program next week, and watch the repeat broadcast tonight at 11. And you can also log on to www.youtube.com/TVC Nigeria to see previous episodes. I am Dapo Aruwadre. Bye for now and God bless Nigeria.